Listening to some Count Basie on KJZZ. I'm Blaze Lantana here with Frankie Manning, who got started. You know, here's my question for you, Frankie. How did you decide that it was just the Lindy Hop? I mean, you just did this dance, this one dance, and made it your own, this one dance. What is it about this dance that hooked you?
Well, what's about this dance is that it's a very happy dance, and it's a partner dance that you can dance with a beautiful young lady. And when I say beautiful young lady, I'm speaking of anyone from 85 years on down. but but anyway, it's a very happy dance, and it's a wonderful dance. I mean, not just for the dancing aspect of it, but it's also good exercise that you can do. You know, when you are out on the floor and you're dancing, as a matter of fact, I've been out on the floor and I've seen a lot of people dance, and then people who were doing the Lindy Hop, I haven't seen one that wasn't smiling. So I know that they're enjoying themselves, and to me, it's just a fun dance to do. You know.
So now people are out there and they're dancing, and you're dancing, and all of a sudden, what happened? Somebody went up in the air. What was that about?
Oh,
What's this aerial stuff? Frankie Manning is known for doing the first aerial. What is that? Did you actually just lose the girl and throw her up in the air? What happened?
No, actually, I got the idea from my idol, who was Shorty Snowden. He used to do a lift that was similar to the air step that I actually created after that. He was doing a lift, and I just got the idea that instead of just doing a lift, if I were to just let my partner continue with that lift and like do a back roll, and and she would do it in time with the music, that it would be a great step. And that's all I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about, okay, this is an air step or something like that. The only thing I was thinking about is a step that I could do with the music. But then when it happened and everybody got excited about it, then I maybe I kind of realized that but this is something that's a little bit different from everything that everybody else is doing, and naturally everybody wanted to try to do something like that because it was exciting. And then they would say, hey, Frankie, that step was great. You're going to teach it to me? So then I teach them that step, and I said, well, if I teach them that, I might as well learn another one. So I did. I learned another step, and then everybody else started picking up on that, and they started doing the same thing. So actually, that air step came from a lift, similar to that.
And then it just moved on from there, huh? All of a sudden, you're lifting and then you're tossing.
Yeah, well, after that, then you just say, well, okay, I can throw this girl in the air somewhere, and then that guy's got the idea. So okay, I'll throw as high as I can, and then I'll go home and have me some lunch and come back.
Talk a little bit about Shorty George. You were talking about your idol. Was he older than you, or?
Oh yes, Shorty Snowden was one of the beginning Lindy Hoppers. As a matter of fact, Shorty Snowden, as I said, was my idol, and he's the one that actually named the dance Lindy Hop. Before that, we used to call it the breakaway, but he did some little fancy steps with his feet, and then some reporter asked him. This is Shorty Snowden's story. He said that some reporter asked him, look, while he was dancing, he said, well, what are you doing, Shorty? Because he was doing all this fancy footwork along with the Lindy Hop, and Shorty Snowden says, well, he remembers that when Lindbergh flew to Atlantic, they had something like Lindy Hop's Atlantic, So when this fella asked him what he was doing, he said, well, I'm doing the Lindy Hop, So that's where the word Lindy Hop actually come from. But before that, we were calling it the breakaway.
Because in the middle of the dance, you actually separate from your partner, right?
Yes, you separate from your partner, yes.
And do some improvisational steps?
Excuse me?
Do some improvisational steps?
Oh, yeah. Well, when you separate from your partner, that gives you a time to shine, and also gives your partner a time to shine. Like you know how you girls are. You want to get out there and show what you can do, too,
Well,
which is wonderful. I mean, we like to see you girls doing that.
Well, let's listen to a tune that Count Basie did called Shorty George on KJZZ. That's the Count Basie Band with Shorty George. I'm Blaze Lantana. here at KJZZ, and tonight's special guest, Frankie Manning, is here, a choreographer and performer of the Lindy Hop. You know, I wanted to ask you about some of the people that you met in the early days, like when you were working with, when you were dancing with Count Basie. How did you meet Count Basie? How did that happen?
Well, actually, when Basie first came onto the scene, we would buy recordings. Um, they were records, not albums, or or tapes or anything like that. But we would buy all his recordings because when he first came on the scene, it was like, wow, this cat can swing, man. So we all started going, and it became one of my favorite bands. I mean, you just played it, basically, Shorty George, and just before that, well, Chick Webb was my favorite because he was a Savoy house band. But then when Basie came on the scene, well, it was like was something out of this world. And I actually had the opportunity to work with Basie's band and the vaudeville show at the Apollo Theater, and that was probably the first time I'd met him. And then I became acquainted with a lot of the guys in the band, and like Joe Jones on the drums, and excuse me, Lester Young on the saxophone, and Dickie Wells trombone, and
What did they think about a dancer hanging out? Were they cool with it? Did they like the dancers?
oh yes, Basie fell in love with Lindy Hoppers, at that particular time, bands were like the big names. Like if there was a show going, it was always say Count Basie and his review, and whenever Basie went out on the road, he would take a Lindy Hop group with him, and since we were the only Lindy Hoppers around, we had the privilege of going out on the road with Basie, and I worked with him quite a lot, and I became well acquainted with him, and he was a wonderful person to know. I mean, without being a great musician, he was also a wonderful person.
Did you all travel together on a bus or in cars? How did you move that kind of an operation all over the place?
Well, depending on how far we had to go, sometimes we would travel. We would travel in a bus, or we would travel on a train. Um, but Basie had a bus, just for his orchestra, and there was also a bus for the other part of the show. Like all the acts, they just had a bus, and at one period of time, we had on the show was like Basie's band, and Sarah Vaughan was the big name singer, and instead of Sarah traveling with Basie's band, she said, "I want to travel with the other guys." So she used to travel with us, and occasionally Basie would travel with us. Like if the distance wasn't all that far, he would kind of like go around with us too.
So did you teach Sarah Vaughan how to do the Lindy Hop?
Well, I used to dance with a lot. Dance with Sarah. Whenever she did an engagement anywhere, if it was a nightclub or something, and they had dancing, it was sometimes like she would be up on the stage singing. Well, she and I became very good friends, and she used to call me bro, like brother, and I used to call her sis. So she would be up on the stage singing, and she'd say, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna dance with you next, yeah." So I say, "Okay, sis," So yeah, I used to dance with her. I mean, and that goes for a lot of the other singers. Like I was also bro and sis with Ella Fitzgerald.
Now did you meet Ella when she was singing with the Chick Webb?
Chick Webb at the Savoy Ballroom. That's where I first met her.
Now she was pretty young then.
Oh, yeah.
You were pretty young then too, though, right?
Yeah,
You
but
were
she
both
was. Yeah, but she was
just a youngster, just starting out.
She was young, but she would be up on the stage singing at the Savoy, and when she finished, like we would all congregate right in the corner next to the band. So when she was finished singing, she would come off the stage and she would come down there and watch us dancing, and I would always grab her, and we would swing out or something.
Because she said she was a dancer, right, when she first went to the Apollo.
Yes.
So was she a good dancer? Was that her main bag?
I didn't know how well she could dance before that particular time, but I know that she was that she could get down there and swing out with the best of us.
Well, tell me about why Chick Webb was such a fun band to dance to, and we'll listen to a little Chick Webb here in just a minute. But what about that band really?
Well, I tell you, Chick Webb was back in those days. Most of the bands were called like dance bands, and Chick was no exception. And he played particularly for the dancers at the Savoy Ballroom, because any band that played at the Savoy Ballroom at that particular time, if they couldn't get the dancers up on the floor, the Lindy Hoppers up on the floor, then they didn't stay there too long. And Chick was in the Savoy. I mean, for years. So he played for the dancers. You know, like we would have a contest like every Saturday night, and and many times he would, like when the dancers the couple were getting ready to go out to dance, he would say, well, what tune do you want me to play for you? To give them their choice of what he should play. And he always played just the tempo, just the right tempo for you to dance to, and the guys in the band was so enthusiastic about playing for you that they would play like tricky notes, put tricky notes together, and they want to see if you can do what they just played, and we say, yeah, you ain't got nothing on me, and you do, with your feet what he did, and then you do something, now you do this, and a lot of times they the musicians in the band, they would do things, they would play intricate steps that we did on the floor. So they watched you all the time, and particularly Chick Webb. I mean, if you would stick your hand out, he would make a beat with that. You say pew, he say boom, So the bands were bands for dancers, and particularly Chick Webb's band.
Well, let's listen to that band. Here's Chick Webb with Clap Hands. Here Comes Charlie. Ella Fitzgerald with the Count Basie Band on KJZZ. I'm Blaze Lantana tonight, talking to Frankie Manning, and he was dancing in the ballrooms at the age of 13 and became a dancer with part of the Whitey's Lindy Hoppers. He was a dancer and choreographer and has been a major force in the development of the dance that is called an American art form, and that's the Lindy Hop. He created the first air step and the first ensemble Lindy Hop routine, and has performed in films, toured with the Whitey's Lindy Hoppers with Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Cab Calloway, and even danced for King George while he was on tour. And in 1942, all this happened many moons ago. In 1942, the group disbanded, and Frankie joined the Army, got out in 1947, and just started dancing again, put a new dance troupe together called the Congaroos, who played on the Milton Berle Show and toured with Dizzy Gillespie. And I wanted to ask you, when you were in the service, was there any dancing? I mean, when they toured with different companies, did you get to dance? Or were you just in the audience?
No, I did get to dance when I was in the service. As a matter of fact, we were in New Guinea when we first went overseas, and we were in New Guinea for 13 months. And during that period of time, we had a couple of gifted youngsters, in our company. We had a guitar player, a saxophone player, and piano player, and so we formed a little group, and we would put on shows for the soldiers. So I did a little singing, a little dancing, a little drumming, things like that when I was in the service. But it was just something that we put together ourselves to do. But that's the time that we were entertaining soldiers.
But you didn't get to work with Bob Hope when he came by. He didn't pull you out of the ranks and up on the stage, huh?
Not Bob Hope, but Jack Benny. At one period of time, Jack Benny came there with the show, and he happened to have a Betty Grable and Carol Landis, two starlets at the time, and they were, with him. I mean, Jerry Colonna was with the show, and he had a big band, and yes, I did get to go up on the stage, and I got to dance with Betty Grable, and well, it was so wonderful. I danced with Betty Grable, and when we finished dancing, when we finished the number, I picked Betty Grable up in my arms and walked off the stage with her, and oh man, the guys just went crazy, and they just applauded. I came back out to take a bow, and Jack Benny said, dance some more, dance some more. So I started dancing with Betty Grable again, and then when I finished, I picked her up again. I walked off the floor. And then I was the champ of the camp. I mean, because after that, the guys would say, man, how was it holding Betty Grable in your arm? I say, man, you'll never know until you do it.
Well, tell me about the Congaroos when you got back. What kind of a troupe was that you put together, the dance troupe?
Well, I put together an act, and we featured Lindy Hop in it, but we also did some Latin American combinations of swing and Latin American dance, and then we did some tap dancing. So I really built, an act around Lindy Hop, and again, I got to work with all my favorite, bands, like the Cab Callaways, the Count Basies, the Duke Ellingtons, Stan Kentons, and perhaps somebody you never heard of, Alvino Ray, and Bob Everly, because he had just left. I think it was Jimmy Dawson's band, and he went out on his own, and he had a band of his own. I worked with those people, and I had the opportunity to work with Martin and Lewis, Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin when they started out, and Milton Berle. I worked with him on the stage, and also worked in did a TV show, his TV show, Texaco show, and the Ed Sullivan show at the time, and I worked with Martha Ray, Tony Bennett, and.
So you're doing all this, you're dancing with all these people, and then comes bebop in the 50s.
Ooh. Well, that was a latter part of the 40s and the early 50s. Yeah, I worked with the. Yeah, one of the engagements was with Dizzy Gillespie's bebop band, and I worked with Dizzy, and he had this drummer that worked with him, and he was one of the young drummers, and he didn't know much about swinging. We gave him our music, which was a Count Basie jumping at the Woodside, and he just bopped all over the place, and we was trying to dance, like we usually dance, and we was doing this jerky movements, what that bebop carries, and he was playing, and we was trying to catch all that stuff, and we looked like, I don't know what we looked like up there on the stage. And I remember I came off the stage, and Dizzy was standing in the wings, and I said to him, I said, Dizzy, I can't say that word over the radio, but I said, what the heck are you? And that's not the word I use. I said, what the heck is this business you're doing, So he just looked at me and smiled and walked away, because he knew I didn't understand. And I didn't understand the music at that particular time. Although later on I did work with Dizzy, and he had another drummer that was called Kenny Clark, and that band could they really swung our music, and it wasn't bop music. I mean, they swung our music, but trying to keep up with the trend as an act, I kind of composed a bebop tune, and I choreographed the routine to bebop that we use sometimes in nightclubs.
That ought to be something to see. That must be pretty wild.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
And you're still dancing that? Can you still dance that today?
No, not anymore. I don't dance that anymore.
Well, tell me about Duke Ellington. Did you dance with Duke Ellington? With the Duke Ellington band? I don't mean you dance with Duke Ellington, but with the orchestra?
Yeah. No, I don't think I would like to dance with Duke Ellington himself now. But yes, I did. Well, as a matter of fact, I called my very first professional engagement because I got paid for it. That's the only reason why I would say it was professional. But we were really amateurs, and I had won an amateur contest at the Apollo Theater, and the prize for winning the contest was performing with the show that was coming in the next day. The contest was on Thursday night, and the show was coming in like on Friday, and the band that was coming in was Duke Ellington's band. So I got the engagement that next day, and we came to rehearsal at Friday morning, and like all these other acts, they went up to Duke, and then they got their music straight and all that, and so Duke walked over. He says, "You're the Lindy Hoppers," so I said, "Yeah," So he said, so he asked for my name. I said, and I know my partner was Hilda. So I said, well, I'm Frankie, and that's Hilda. So he said, well, okay, what do you want to dance to? So I mean, I'm used to used to dance with basic music and chick web music. I say, okay, can you play Jumping at the Woodside? He said, no, we don't play that. So I said, okay, chick web. How about Let's Get Together? He said, we don't play that either. And I started to say something else, and Duke looked at me. He said, isn't there any music of ours that you would like to dance to? And I
So
just
did
wanted,
you find one? Did you pick one?
I just want to tell you that no, we love Duke Ellington's music, but it was not the kind of music that we swing to. This was like in 1934, and Duke hasn't started doing tunes like "It Don't Mean a Thing If You Haven't Got That Swing" or Cottontail or things like that. He wasn't.
Maybe you inspired him when you couldn't think of a tune to dance
possible.
to.
It's possible. But anyway, he said, well, we have a tune called Stompy Jones. Would you like to dance to that? I said, well, I had never heard it. But I said, yeah, okay. So I danced the whole week to Stompy Jones.
Well, let's listen to Duke Ellington's band and Stompy Jones on KJZZ. This is listener-supported KJazz, KJZZ, Phoenix. Benny Goodman on KJZZ with the Jersey Bounce, and Duke Ellington before that with Stompy Jones. I'm Blaze Lantana, and I have more great jazz on the way. Tonight, I'm here with dance legend Frankie Manning, who'll be teaching and dancing this weekend for the New Year's Swing Jam. The dance classes and big band dances are going to be held Friday through Sunday at Longview Elementary School in Phoenix. You can find out more by going to the website azls.com or just by showing up at the door. So if you want to know anything about the Lindy Hop, you can go and ask a man who helped create it. Well, here's something I want to know about the Lindy Hop, and that is when you were starting out, you talked about being influenced by Shorty George Snowden and that he was one of the first. Now, who was Stretch Jones, and what did you pick up from his dance steps?
Well, Stretch Jones was a very, well, we used to call him Fred Astaire of Lindy Hop. So he was very elegant when he danced, and both he and Shorty Snowden, they danced the ballroom type dance where you had like a straight back because this was like dances that come from ballroom dancing into Lindy Hop, but they had such beautiful footwork and Stretch Jones, he had such a personality. It was fantastic. He would do something and even if it's just a small step, he would exaggerate it by doing something that would make it look big, But I love to watch him dance. As a matter of fact, I watch him so much though. I would get out there and dance, and I would think about him, the way he would do a step, and I would do it that same way, and all my friends would say, "Hey, Frankie, you look just like Stretch Jones." I say, "Man, yeah, that's like a compliment." I said, "Man, if I look like him, I must be doing pretty good, And then another time, I would get out there and do something. I think about Shorty Snowden, and then they say, "Hey, you look like Shorty Snowden." I say, "Wow, that's great," So they were two of my idols, and there were two different dancers. Shorty Snowden added a lot of humor to his dance, when Leroy Stretch Jones, he was more of a sophisticated, straight dancer, but he had fantastic footwork.
Now, what about this horizontal thing, this bending, when you changed from doing the straight back dance step to where you bend more? How did you get into that? What started that?
Well, I think it probably started when I was a youngster. I was dancing with my mother, and I thought I was doing pretty good. I was dancing with her, but when we came off the floor, she told me, she said, "Well, Frankie," I said, "Yes, Mom." She said, "Well, you'll never be a dancer." And I said, "Well, why do you say that?" She said, "Well, because you're too stiff." So from that point on, I said, "Well, I'm not going to be stiff. I'm not going to have a straight back." So I started dancing with a chair and a broom, trying to loosen up, trying to get down, and I just carried it over from there. And as I said, Shorty Snowden and Leroy, they were upright dancers, but I found out that I could do the same thing they did, if I was more closer to the floor, you know, and then dancing it was like when I danced, I was like almost horizontal. And most of the youngsters around my age, they started picking up on that and say, "Wow, Frankie, you look like you fly," and that's the look I wanted to get, you know. So most everyone else started doing that back.
Now, at this event that's coming up this weekend, are you going to do a demonstration? Are you going to be doing some dancing just that we can watch, or just teaching?
Well, I don't know. I'll be teaching and I'll be showing, and I guess maybe I'll probably do something.
We won't be able to stop them, I think, is the real answer to that question. Now, talk a little bit about retirement. After the 1950s hit and things started to slow down, you had to get a straight gig. What did that gradually happen? Was it a gradual process that gigs started drying up, or did you just make a decision to do something different?
Well, actually, the gigs were kind of drying up, and most of the work that I was getting was like out of town, you know, like to a nightclub or theater, and it was mostly like out of town, and I'd be going maybe 5 to 6 weeks or something like that, and I was married at the time, and my wife just laid down the law. She said, "Well, you always gone." I said, "She said, if you keep doing that, I mean, one of these nights you come back and I won't be here, you know. And so why don't you try to get a job in where you can settle down?" And as I said, jobs were kind of, you know, drying up, so I decided to go into the post office and stay home. So that's how that
So
happened.
did you dance your way to the mailbox?
Well, not actually, but occasionally I would put in a little step while I was doing that.
So Frankie Manning was with the post office for 30 years?
30 years, yeah. I went in, actually, when I went in the post office, I said, well, I'm not going to be here long. Maybe I'd do about a year and then I'll go back to dancing. That was my thoughts when I first went in there. And 30 years later, that's when I came out. Yes.
So how did you get out? When did the new swing thing reach you? Did
Well,
they find you right away?
well, no, not right away because there was another friend of mine, Al Mims, who was teaching at the time, and he was one of Whitey's top Lindy helpers, and he was out there teaching. But I was still dancing even though I was in the post office. I was still dancing because I had what we call a tour, and I went from like 3:30 to 12 midnight, you know. And 12 midnight was my time, you know. So me and a bunch of friends, we would still go out to dance, you know. But I wasn't doing anything professionally, you know. And and Al Mims, he had started teaching a group called New York Swing Dance Society, and you know, and I met them and I saw them a couple of times. So when I retired, retiring was already in the process. So, but I did retire. When I did retire, then that's when I kind of got back into dancing. But Aaron Stephen and Stephen Mitchell was the ones that came to me and asked me if I would teach them. And you know, at first I was kind of reluctant. I said, "Well, look, man, I don't teach anymore," you know. So, but I saw them dancing. I said, "Well, they had potential," and I said, "Well, gee, maybe I can help. You know, I can help them to progress, or you know." Uh, so I started teaching with them, and then I started working with the New York Swing Dance Society. I started teaching them, and because Al passed away, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. Al passed away, and then I started working with the New York Swing Dance Society and Aaron Stephen and Stephen Mitchell, and from them, you know, other people wanted to learn.
What about Alvin A. Lee? You worked with at the Alvin A. Lee American Dance Theater. Were they Lindy hopping too over there?
Well, you know, Alvin Ailey, they have a repertoire doing a lot of different types of dancing, but they were doing a tribute to Jay McShann, and they wanted some swing. So Norma Miller and I, we choreographed the routine for them. And when they first did it at the Center Theater in New York, we actually appeared in the piece, you know, with the Alvin Ailey dances. And in American Ballroom Theater, I choreographed some, you know, some routines for them.
Now, you have had some pretty big birthday parties.
Oh, yes.
I
Yeah.
heard about this one where you danced with 85 women.
Oh, which one was that? That was my 85th birthday.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, they had a big birthday party for me at the Roseland Ballroom in New York City, and they had two bands there that night. George G's big band, and Count Basie's big band, and you played it a little while ago. Ella Fitzgerald singing "Shiny Stocking," which everyone happens to refer to as Frankie's theme song. so they started playing that, and when they announced my birthday, they started playing that, and they had 85 women to line up. So I danced with 85 women, at the Roseland Ballroom. But that was not the end of it. The very next day, I went to California, San Francisco, and they had a big party, or big dance in the park, in San Francisco. And again, I danced with 85 women. Then they had a dance later on, and I danced with another 85 women. So for my 85th birthday, I danced with 85 women 3 different times. So that takes up for my 86th, 87th.
Well, it's good to see you're keeping out of trouble, with all this dancing.
Well, that's the only way I can do that is by dancing.
Now, you've been doing a lot of choreography, and you said you're a self-taught dancer, learned from a broom and a chair there and watching some friends. How did you make that transition from just dancing to being able to tell other people how to dance, how to do your steps?
Well, I don't know how I made it, but the only thing I know is that I know what I'm doing when I do it. Now I know. I used to didn't know, but now I know what I'm doing, and I know how to tell a person. So, well, this is what I want you to do, and this is the way that I want you to do it. So, I guess I was, since I met Whitey, or was in Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, I was always a choreographer, because I choreographed most of the routines for Whitey's Lindy Hoppers. But back in those days, like in the 30s, I don't know if you realize, the word choreographer was not in the dictionary. If you look at some of those old films where they have dancing, and it's always dances stage by such and such a person. So the word choreography was not there. So when I used to do these routines, I just said, well, I'm going to make up a routine, so that's what I would do. And like Black and Blue, which I won a Tony for choreography for that particular show. When they were picking the choreographers for the show, they was looking for someone with authentic background to Afro-American dances. And fortunately, they picked me, and I just showed them stuff that I already knew how to do. That's all. So it was a lot of fun,
Well, let's listen to some music. I'm Blaise Lantana. I'm here talking with Frankie Manning on KJZZ. The Arizona Big Band on KJZZ with Any Doodle Do. And the Arizona Big Band will be performing this weekend, January 12th, this Saturday night, as part of the New Year's Swing Jam. Frankie Manning, Norma Miller, and Chaz Young will all be teaching and dancing, and it's all-age dances. So it should be a lot of fun. Sounds like a lot of fun. Classes begin on Friday and also on Saturday. The Golden Age of Swing at 8 p.m., and there's a beginner's swing dance lesson starting at 9, and then Saturday night, dance lessons start at 8 and, at 10 a.m., sorry. On Saturday, they start at 10 a.m. and go all through the day and all through till Sunday evening. So it's a whole weekend of swing dancing. And, here was a question that I put on my promo. Now, what is the difference between the Lindy Hop and the Jitterbug? Is there any difference?
No, there isn't any difference between Lindy Hop and Jitterbug. Jitterbug is just a nickname for Lindy Hop. Say, for instance, if your name is Dorothy and they call you Dot, you're the same person, So if somebody said Jitterbug, they're speaking about Lindy Hop. As a matter of fact, back in the 30s, we were referred to as Jitterbug, but we were still doing the Lindy Hop. So it's a media name that came out during the mid-30s. This to call the dance Jitterbug, and then it kind of caught on. Everybody just started saying Jitterbug, but there's no difference.
It's the same dance.
Same dance.
Now, what's a boogie woogie?
Well, boogie woogie, like it's they call it a dance like in Germany and some of the European countries. They call it they call it boogie woogie, and that comes from when the soldiers were over there during the war, um, and they would be doing a dance, but they would be playing some kind of the music was boogie woogie music. So they said, well, they just started naming the dance boogie woogie after the music that was being played. Um, I tell you one incident I had the one of the first times that I went over to France to teach. Um, a couple came to me and said, well, we the boogie woogie champions, you know. And I hadn't heard the word boogie woogie before, you know. I mean, in that sense, you know. So I'd heard the word boogie woogie, but when he come to me and said, well, we boogie woogie champions, so I said, oh yeah, uh, let me see you do the boogie woogie, you know. And he got up there and started doing this, and I started looking at him. I say, I'm thinking about the boogie that we do back here in America, you know, like, we throwing our hip from side to side, you know. But they wasn't doing anything like that. They was bouncing up and down, you know. And so I said, that's the boogie woogie? So they said, yes. That was my first encounter with the boogie woogie dance. But didn't look nothing like the boogie woogie we do.
Now, there's a dance called the Shim Sham that I know I've seen some of the Lindy Hoppers here do. And how did that dance come about?
Well, that's a dance that was originated by Leonard Reed and Willie Bryant. And incidentally, Leonard Reed is still alive today, and he's 93 years old, and he's still dancing. So, man, I want to live to be 93 and still dance just like Leonard Reed. But it was originated like in nightclubs because at the time they used to have like nightclubs would be open like 5 nights a week, and Monday nights the clubs would close. But what would happen is that they would have one club open so all the other entertainers could come in and be entertained. But then they would have so many celebrities in the house, they would invite them up on the stage, you know. And and each one would come up there, he'd play a saxophone, he'd play a trumpet, he'd play a piano, he'd sing a song, you know. And that'd take all night. So these two guys, Leonard Reed and Willie Bryant, they designed this particular number, so that everybody just come up and do it. So then everybody just learn how to do the shim sham. It's such an easy dance to do.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, and if you'd like to see the Shim Sham, you can watch and learn this weekend from some of the best. Frankie Manning, Norma Miller, and Chaz Young. They'll be in Phoenix to share the Lindy Hop with a whole new generation, and classes are open for all ages from 9 to 90. The New Year's Swing Jam is happening this weekend, and it starts Friday night at 7 with stories of the golden era of swing, and then the Shim Sham will be tonight at 8. Then the KGB Trio will play from 9 to midnight, and then the event continues through the weekend. This will all be held at Longview Elementary School on 12th Street and Indian School.
Now, how did you get your son into dancing? Your son is Chaz Young, is that right?
Yes, he is Chaz Young. And I didn't actually, well, in a roundabout way. His mother brought him to see me, and I was playing at one of the theaters, Roxy Theater in New York. And she brought him to see me, you know, perform. And while I was on the stage performing, she asked him if he wanted to dance. So he said, "Oh yeah, I want to dance like Pop," you know. So after that, he started going to dancing school. So now he said he liked to follow in my footsteps, and he practically has. He's gone. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, and he's gone to a lot of the places that I've gone. Some places I haven't even gone to. But he travels all around the world doing the same thing.
But you don't travel together. You don't do.
Occasionally, yes, we do.
Once in a while.
Yes, we did a lot of dates together. We do Sweden every year, Sweden and Norway, and we're there for like about 2 months.
Well, let's listen to George G. stomping at the Savoy, and while this is happening, Frankie Manning is leading the Shim Sham. Here they are on KJZZ.
We're going to have George G. swinging band playing the Shim Sham. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Push it push it and you push it and you tacky and you. Ha ha. Ho ho. All right. Break time. Half break. Ho. One more time. Okay. Shim sham. Shake it up. Ho. Ha. Hey. Ho. Ha. Hey. 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 Ho. Breathe. Push down. Push it and you push it and you. Push it and you push it and you. Push it and you push it and you. And you. And you. And you. Oh. Ha. Hey. Hey. Ho. Ho. Hey. Ho. Ho. All right. Ho. Freeze. Big time. Freeze. One more time. Freeze. Boogie time. Oh, oh. Ha. 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 Oh. Johnny George. Oh. Everybody dance. Freeze. Dance. Freeze. Dance. Freeze. Dance. Dance. Freeze. Dance. Take it out, brother. Freeze. Dance. Freeze. Dance. Freeze. Dance. Freeze. Dance. Freeze. Dance. Everybody freeze. All right.
George G. Orchestra with Frankie Manning leading a bunch of dancers there in the Shim Sham to the Stompin' at the Savoy tune. I'm Blaze Lantana, and this is KJZZ, the intelligent choice for National Public Radio News and the best acoustic jazz.
I'm here with Frankie Manning, who is in town for the New Year's Swing Jam at Longview Elementary School in Phoenix. Dance legends Frankie Manning, Norma Miller, Chaz Young, Eric Robeson, and Sylvia Schuyler from the Broadway show Swing, and Shesa and Tara Marvin will all be teaching with live music from the KGB Trio and the Arizona Big Band at night. You can find out more by going to azls.com.
Now I have to ask if you did the choreography for Malcolm X for Spike Lee's film. You were the dance consultant on that film, and how was Denzel as a dancer? Did you dance with him when you were teaching him? Were you dancing with him?
Well, I did do some little things with him just to let him get the feel. You know, I let him kind of lead me. You know, I had to follow his part. And Denzel Washington was pretty good. I mean, well, he really studied it and watched us dance, and he wanted to try to do, you know, exactly like I was doing. So I think Denzel Washington did a very good job. He danced with Teresa Randall, and was one step that that I generally do, and I call it the snatch, where the girl is maybe about 3 or 4 feet from me, and I snatch her to me, and she lands on my shoulder, almost goes over my shoulder. And Denzel Washington had seen me do that, and he said, Frankie, I want to do that. And I said, Denzel, you don't want to do that. He said, yeah, teach me that, man. I said, yeah, okay. And so I said, Teresa, do you want to try to do that? And she had confidence in him. So she said, yeah. So I kind of taught him that particular step. And he did it very well. He did it very well. As a matter of fact, one particular time when we was in rehearsal, he did the step so well that we all got a little scared at the time. Because when he snatched her, she like flew over his shoulder, and he just managed to catch her by the heel of her foot, before she went all the way over. But we all had, we were out of our seats and ready to grab her, But yeah, but she still insisted on doing it again, So they were very good, and I had lessons with him and lessons with Spike Lee, and out of the two, Denzel Washington was a little better than Spike Lee.
Now, you said Malcolm X was a Lindy Hopper too in his day. He enjoyed doing the Lindy Hop. Actually, in his day, Malcolm X did.
Yes, he did. Although I had never met him in a ballroom, because he came along like in 43, 42, 43, 44, something like that, and I was in the army at the time. But I heard that he had been to Savoy and all of that, but I never saw him dance up there.
How do you like being the head honcho now? I mean, you don't have anybody to learn from, or do you? How do you learn today?
I beg your pardon. I have everybody to learn from. All these young kids out there nowadays, boy, I look at these young kids dancing nowadays, and I say, man, when I grow up, I want to dance just like that. But yes, I'm still learning. I mean, I see these young kids get out there and they do things, that I like, and so I try to do them. I mean, or one dance always steals from another dance, and some of these hip hoppers out there, they do some things that, actually come from the Lindy Hop, and I see them doing it, and I say, oh yeah, that's right, we used to do that like that, not exactly like that, but we did that, and some things that they do that I have incorporated in Lindy Hop also. So, as I say, you steal from one dance and put it in another. So I'm still learning.
And what kind of things are you going to show people this weekend about the dance? People who might already know how to do it. What kinds of things do you show them?
Well, I'm going to show them how to dance and be happy at it. How to enjoy yourself while dancing, and how to lead and follow, and I hopefully I'll kind of ask some of these young ladies who 90s ladies, and they are not too particular about having fellas to lead them, but I'm going to ask them if they can spare, a couple of minutes just to be led by these guys, So I hopefully I can get everybody out there having a good time.
Well, Frankie Manning, thank you so much for coming by the station and talking with us about the Lindy Hop and the great legacy that you have in dance.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad I'm a legacy that's a legend that's still alive.
All right. Thank you, Frankie Manning. And you can meet this great legend this weekend if you can make it to the New Year's Swing Jam starting Friday night at Longview Elementary School on 12th Street and Indian School in Phoenix. More information at azls.com. And now let's listen to some music, and I'll turn the night back over to Steve Conrad. Here's the KGB Trio on 91.5 FM KJazz.